Hello again, and welcome back to another sound design tutorial. Today we're looking at creating magic sounds, or sounds that sort of fit someone casting a spell, which was recommended to me by a subscriber called Igor Agiv. I'm assuming he's a subscriber, commenter I suppose. But thank you Igor for the recommendation, and apologies if I said your name wrong. So let's jump straight into this. If any of you guys have watched some of my older videos, you'll probably notice I'm not using Logic today, I'm actually using Reaper. And the reason why is because I'm recording this on a PC as opposed to my little MacBook Air. And obviously Logic Pro is exclusive to Mac, so hence why I'm using Reaper. But so far I'm enjoying it, kind of testing the waters a bit, and it's been recommended to me by a few people, so we'll see how it goes. Cool, so enough of that, let's actually jump straight into it. As you can see in the bottom right, I've actually got a scene from BioShock Infinite. And the reason why I chose this as a sort of template, like I did with the sound design video for the Monster Raw, I chose this as a template because it's got a pretty cool magic-y looking power in it, or vigor, or plasmid, or whatever they were last calling them, called Return to Sender, which I wanted to use specifically, mainly because I could have used, like, you know, a magic spell from, I don't know, say Skyrim, where the magic was sort of fire-based or ice-based or lightning-based, but I wanted a kind of generic-looking one, something that just looked magical and didn't look like anything else too specific, because I wanted to kind of challenge myself, I guess, basically. I mean, if you started with one of them, you kind of know where to start, you know. For a fire spell, for example, you'd know you need to create something that sounded like fire. I wanted to just focus on the magic element of this, you know. I wanted things to sound outer-worldly, mysterious, and, well, magical. That's why I've sort of gone with this. So let's have a quick look and listen, actually, because I've got the audio file here. Let's have a quick look and listen to the original scene and see what we're working with. Actually, let's quickly solo it first. There we go. Cool, good stuff. And let's now have a listen to what I've come up with. Nice one. So I'm really happy with how this came out in the end. I found when I recorded all my audio, individually they sounded really cool, really magical and really weird. But cohesively, it was tough to get them all to fit. And to fit the visual I used as a template. So that was kind of where the challenge was for me. So hopefully if any of you guys get stuck with that kind of problem, this will help you out a bit. So let's have a look at some of the audio I've recorded. So the first one is a metal tray. Let's have a listen to that on its own. Actually, before we do, let me quickly explain what I've done for you guys. So I've color-coded all my audio, as you can see. We've got green, orange, and red. All the green stuff is sounds that happen sort of before the spell is cast. As you can see here, I put my cursor on the frame where we see the spell, because they're cast very quickly. It lasts like half a second, if that, where you see the hand actually performing the spell. So I wanted sounds just before we see that happen to kind of, I guess, build it up for the listener. Tell the listener, hey, you're about to hear something weird and magical happen. And it worked quite well, instead of just having, you know, a sound that just plays instantly, it come out of nowhere. So that's what the green is. Orange is the spell being cast, so that follows that frame where we see the hand. And red is any sort of long audio that starts or ends the spell. So for example, if I put the cursor here, all you can see is this sort of blue sort of circle which the spell's created. So all the red audio is, you know, filling in that gap. And if I put the cursor over here, this is him sort of building up the spell. It's not a spell, but whatever. He's building it up, and the red again here is sort of filling that gap for us. Cool. So now let's have a listen to the actual audio. Let's start with the metal tray. So I recorded this by getting just a metal sort of tray, and I took a plastic sort of pole, and I rubbed it basically, and it gave it a nice shimmery sound, which worked quite well in a couple of instances, which you'll see in a bit. What I also did is I reversed it, so it sort of builds into the rest of the sound. Let's have a listen to that on its own. There we go. Let's quickly turn some of the effects on. So this is it, obviously dry. There we go. And I think also I've got the audio file here without it being reversed. If I quickly tap over here, we can have a listen to it. How I originally recorded it. There we go. So you can kind of get an idea of what I did. I took some metal and I rubbed it. You could do this probably with cutlery, anything metal really. Just rub it together and you get a nice shimmery sound. So that was the first sound I used for the build-up. The second one I used was a synthesizer, which I kind of didn't want to use too much of. You can use synthesizers for this kind of stuff. They work really well. I wanted to kind of see how much audio I could record and process into sounding something, you know, weird and mystical. But in the end, I caved. And I used a synthesizer because it kind of added a sort of harmony, which I felt was quite important. Something musical. If you look at TV where they're doing magic spells, a lot of spells that are considered good, maybe like a healing spell, you'll hear like chimes playing or like a harp or something to suggest that it's peaceful and a good spell. And then when it's evil, you might hear some really horrible sort of sounds that clash together. So I knew for this, I kind of wanted just a little bit of harmony, just to tie it all together. Hence why I used a synthesizer. Let's have a listen to that on its own. Okay, so the synthesizer I used, or the sort of, how I set it up was really simple. I didn't really do too much of it. I used sort of just 3 MIDI notes. They're all Cs, so they're just all octaves. Let's jump into Massive, which is the actual synthesizer I used by Native Instruments. And as you can see, or if any of you have used this before, you'll know that I haven't done a lot on it just by looking at it. I've literally just set up 3 oscillators with sounds I thought sounded really cool. Shaped the envelope a bit so it came in kind of slowly or didn't come in too quickly, and then released quite gradually. And just added a bit of reverb. That was basically all I did, and that's how we got that sound. Let's have a listen to that with the metal tray. So this is all the sounds that sort of come before the spell is cast. There we go. I sort of stretched out the synthesizer a little bit longer. So that kind of bleeds over into the spell actually being cast. Just because it kind of filled a little gap I felt needed to be there. And again, I did that harmony. Cool. Now, next is the spell being cast. So I've started with something low and boomy, which what I did is I got a washing machine door and just recorded me slamming it shut, which sounds like this without any effects on it. That's also, I should point out, that is it stretched out. If I quickly hold Alt, I can stretch it back in, roughly anyway, let's stretch it back in. About there-ish. That's probably still a bit too... Oh, actually, wait, let's turn that off. Do it a little bit more. There we go. So roughly there, this is the original sound. There we go, so it's just the washing machine door being slammed. Then if I undo that, we can get it back to where it was. There we go. And then effects, I think all I did was EQ and compress it. I didn't do too many weird like reverbs or delays because it worked quite well as is. Just by stretching it out, that made it sound kind of weird enough. The kind of almost statically electrical sound you kind of get from stretching out the audio, it helped quite a lot. And also by stretching out the length of it, we got sort of all that sort of bassy goodness that comes with shutting a washing machine door, sort of filled out the animation as well, so that worked quite well. And I literally just compressed it so it sounded quite punchy, you feel it more than anything. Cool. There we go. Let's have a look at the second audio, which is one of my personal favourites for this. I recorded a toilet being flushed. I have no idea why. I guess in the moment I was thinking, toilets, they're very distinctive. I mean, what else sounds like a toilet? Nothing. But they also sound really weird from the flush, from the water running. So I figured, hey, let's see if that works. And it worked really well. Let's have a listen without any effects. There we go, literally just the toilet being flushed. Then with effects, sounds really cool, sounds really weird and mystical. As you can see, I've got some, well, first I changed the pitch a bit, as you can see, I've raised it up by 1.5 octaves-ish. Added some delay, just to thicken it up a bit. Reverb, make it sound sort of distant and spacey, I guess, and then I'll just compress the whole thing. And yeah, just mess around with some EQ. Yeah, that was all it is, really. Let's have a listen to that with the washing machine. There we go. So that's already sort of our base, We can already sort of feel something magical coming from that. Obviously, it needs a bit more. But where I started was with these 2 sounds. Everything else came after. So it gave me a good little template. Next is the metal tray again. Let's have a listen to that on its own. So this isn't reversed this time. This is just played out normal. I think what I did is I EQ'd it so that we lost all the low end and got all the high, because I wanted some nice high end air, I guess, to put on top, and that adds to the sort of magical feel because it sounds really shimmery, you know. And because it's metal, it kind of already sounds a bit mystical and magical, so that worked really well. And then pitch shifted a bit to make it even higher, and then just compressed it a bit. Cool. Let's have a listen to that raw. There we go. And then obviously with sounds like that. Cool. And then let's have a listen with the washing machine and toilet. There we go. We're really getting somewhere now. And then the last sound I used for the spell cast is bacon sizzling, which I don't think I did too much to it. Yeah, it was just EQ and compression. So let's have a listen to that on its own. Or sorry, rather, on its own. There we go. So it's literally just bacon sizzling. Reason why is because I got the impression that this would be quite a hot spell, you know, so you'd expect to hear some heat coming off it, because obviously, I imagine there's a lot of energy being used in this. So with that would come some heat, right? So adding that little sizzle made it feel a bit more believable. You can add all the weird sounds in the world, but if it doesn't sound believable, it's not going to work. So that really helped tie it all together as well. So let's have a listen to all the orange sounds, the spell casting themselves. There we go. And then let's actually listen to that with the sounds that come before the spells, the little build up. Sounding really, really cool now. Great. So let's have a listen to the final category, which is the red zone, I guess. And this is obviously, like I said, all the sounds that come after the spells cast. As again, I've used the synthesizer from before. I've used Massive. I don't think I changed too much. Oscillators look near enough the same, I think. Reverb, I think I've just done a bit less of that. And the envelope, twisted it a little bit. And then, I've added tremolos. So, the reason why I've added tremolo, before we go any further, let me quickly do this. If I solo the track, we can just watch the spell itself without any audio. There we go. So obviously, if we watch it now, you can see that it's moving, it's twisting, it's spinning. So we want to kind of get that impression from the sound as well, that the sound's not just, being played and not doing anything in the real world. The sound, you'd expect the sound to move with it, because obviously that spell is what's creating the sound. And the way I did this is with one of my favourite effects in the world, which is tremolo. I love throwing tremolo on anything just to make it sound like it's moving, which I think I did a load with the monster roll as well. Just threw it on everything and it sounded like the monster was moving. So let's have a listen to that sound now. That's enough of that. Let's unsolo that. There we go. Scroll down to the synthesizer. Let's have a listen to the synthesizer, I suppose without the tremolo first. There we go. There we go. So it works already. But if I add the tremolo, there we go. See what I mean? So now it's rotating. It sounds like that wheel is forcing the sound to turn with it. Next is a harmonica. Now, let me quickly bring you guys over here. This is the original file of the harmonica. Oh, no, that's not. This is. There we go. So I tried this. I thought, again, because in my head, I'm thinking I want some sort of harmony. So I grabbed a little toy harmonica, blew into that. And for the life of me, I could not get into fit. At the time, I was thinking, that'd be genius if I record it. But it really didn't work. But somehow I've managed to get that sound I kind of accidentally played to you with a lot of effects, basically. If we jump over here. So that was the original audio. First thing I did is stretch it out, so it fit the length of the animation. Next, let's have a look. In fact, if I play all the effects one by one, this will probably get a better idea of how it came together. This, by the way, was just to remove a bit of noise that I picked up in the recording. So that doesn't really affect it too much. The first main sort of plugin I added was pitch. As you can see, I've dropped it quite a bit, but I've also used this format shift option, which it really changes the sound in a weird way. I love it. I think I'm going to try and use this pitch shifter in Reaper a lot more, because this is just your standard pitch shifter. Yeah, and it really worked quite well. Let's have a listen to it now. Oh, hold on one second. There we go. Let's now have a listen to it. Oh, see what I mean? It sounds really weird already. Next, I think I EQ'd it. I just wanted all the middle. There we go. Next, reverb. Messed around with some of the presets, and then I think I twisted it a little bit just to see what I liked. So now it's really sounding mystical and out of this world, and also a bit distant. which you kind of want, because it's obviously the spell's a little bit... Ooh, it's an arm's length away, so you want a bit of distance on it. Delay to thicken up the sound a bit. And then, of course, the must-have, the tremolo. Let's have a listen. There we go. Cool, so I'm really happy with how that came out. The harmonica fit really well. Let's have a listen with the synthesizer. So they sit real nicely together. I think originally I had the harmonica's volume all the way up, but I turned it down just because I wanted the second spell, this one here, I wanted that to sound a little bit different. So the harmonica I turned down in the first one and boosted in the second one. And I also took this next one, which is a toilet flush again. I had that loud in the first one and dropped it in the second one. So they sound a bit different because obviously one's blue and big, the other's small and red. So they're going to sound a bit different. Great, so let's have a listen to our next sound. The toilet flush again. Let's have a listen to that on its own. So that's just the water this time. It's not so much the flush, it's the water that follows. Let's add some of the effects back in. Let's start with the EQ. Quickly set that all back up. There we go. So EQ on its own. Next is the delay. Reverb follows. Where I've made the reverb quite wet and just removed all the dry signal, now it really changes, obviously. We're really getting a sort of weird, ominous sound. Next is some more pitch shifting, which as you can see, I just dropped it 2 octaves. So now it sounds quite dark almost, and a bit demented. You could use this for maybe some evil sounds. Tremolo again, because, come on, there's got to be tremolo. Nice. I think with this one, I kind of added a bit of stereo separation, or originally it was like all the way up here. To make it sound a bit weirder, you know, using the stereo field to my advantage, but I think I pulled it back a bit because I didn't want to go overboard. And then finally, it's just some compression. Just to balance the levels a bit. Cool. And then last is some more bacon sizzling, which again, I don't think I did too much with. Oh, sorry, let's have a listen to that all together. So let's have a listen to these 3 all together. Nice. And then finally is the bacon sizzling, which again, literally just some EQ to get rid of some of the low end. Nice one. So now let's have a listen to all of it together. There we go. Let's also have a listen to the whole sound all together. In fact, let's start from the very beginning and have one more quick recap of where we got to. So, this is the sounds you hear before the spell. These are the sounds you hear before and during the spell being cast. And then finally, this is... Oh, I've done that a bit weird. This is everything. And the second spell. Just for a bit of bonus because I felt like doing it. As you can see, they sound a little bit different, especially on the casting of the spell. That one and this one. They've got their own sort of distinct sound to them, and I think the main reason you can hear that is because of the toilet flush. If I play the toilet on its own, obviously everything else because they're different recordings, but if I play the toilet on its own, and then on its own with the other one, because they're different flushes, they give, you know, distinct sounds. I also know they kind of sounded a bit sci-fi. Maybe if you guys are ever doing some sci-fi sounds, it might be worth recording a toilet. Why not? See what happens. And I think that's it for this video. So thank you, as always, very much for watching. Thank you, especially to Igor, for this recommendation, because I've had a lot of fun with it, and I hope this helps you out. And if any of you guys want to throw some suggestions my way as to what you guys want to see, please stick them in the comments, and I'd be happy to check them out for you. Great. So, as always, I've been Henry Scott. Thanks for watching.